Weston, aka Westo Cream. What's up, buddy?
Oh, we just out here looking up some basketball news, trying to figure out what's going on, seeing if we're going to get a team in Kansas City.
Yeah, it's crazy. I heard that Patrick Mahomes is pretty excited about that, huh?
Yeah, he would like that. We're not the only city in contention so far. The Toronto Raptors are needing to find a home with COVID restrictions being pretty rough up there in Canada, and expectedly so. They may not be able to cross the border for games, so they're looking at maybe a possible spot in the good old USA to play basketball next season. So far, I've seen Buffalo and Kansas City are pretty big picks, and I think I heard something about maybe Tennessee looking at getting a shot. But it'd be pretty sweet if we could get a basketball team here in Kansas City, and like you said, good old Patty Mahomes is really banking on that one too.
Now, Kansas City hasn't had a basketball team since what, 1972? Back when they
I think
had
it
the
was a little. I think it was a little later than that, but yeah, it's been a little while.
what they got the franchise of the Omaha Kings is what they called them, didn't it? Even though
Kansas
they're in
City
Kansas
Kings.
City's Kansas City
It was
Kings.
the Kansas City Kings.
Yeah. So, pretty exciting news for Kansas City to have something they haven't had in such a long time, especially with how sports have been going in Kansas City lately. Obviously, back in 2015, you had the Royals winning the World Series. Just last year, you had the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, win the Super Bowl. So,
Yeah, it's been really exciting around Kansas City for about the last 5 6 years as a sports town, and I'm not big into soccer, but Sporting KC's always seems like they're in somewhat contention for title shots, and I know they've won a few at this point, and so we've been a pretty good sports town for a while, and a lot of college fandom from all sorts of areas, kind of a melting pot of that here. But one thing that's been missing for a long time now is basketball and a hockey team, and I think Kansas City could be ready for that next step in basketball. I think it's a good time to get into the market, especially with a lot of longtime superstars kind of winding down their reign and a bunch of new talent starting to flood into the league. It's an exciting time to get back into it. So I think it'd be good for the city.
now speaking of long-time superstars and everything, LeBron James winning his another ring for himself.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
what do you think? What do you think about that? Do you think he's going to be done? Do you think his ring chasing is over, or do you think he's gonna be in contention to get another one?
LeBron James has Anthony Davis on his basketball team.
But he
This is
does.
no longer the LeBron James show. He's playing less minutes every year. However, he's still really just effective as ever. He just can't really do it for as many games or for as long as he used to. But when he's on the court, I mean, he still looks like a superhuman and a complete freak out there, and it's not slowing down yet. I mean, unless he has just one of those cliff type seasons where all of a sudden he goes from being one of the best to ever play to one of the worst to ever grace the court. I don't see there being um, like even if he does start to somewhat decline, I think they're still more than capable with that team to be in contention again. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about that if I'm a Lakers fan.
Yeah, you know, growing up, never really a big basketball guy, but I know you got to pay respect where respect is due, and LeBron James is one hell of an athlete. But
Yeah, super freak.
yeah, somebody at some point everybody slows down and everything, but I don't know. I could see it
Wants
to
to play
where
with his son. Bronny's got what 2 years left, I think, something like that before he'd be eligible to come into the league, maybe three. He's going to be around for a little while longer, and I think as long as he's in the league, he's going to be in contention for whatever sort of title they would, you know, for any sort of title bout. So
all right, switching off of basketball, let's go over to the baseball world. And I know we're both some big Royals fans. What do you think about this season during COVID and only playing 60 games? And Now we're into the World Series here tonight, Game 6. The Tampa Bay Rays against the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean it's been a strange season, right? I was really excited for baseball to originally start up, and then it got pushed and pushed and pushed, and then by the time baseball finally did start up, it was so nice to have it back, and I was watching every single Royals game, and still, I've been a big Royals fan, never been a huge league-wide baseball fan, which I think is a problem that baseball's been trying to combat for a while now. But so pretty much as soon as the Royals kind of went out of contention, I started falling off, and I've paid a little bit of attention to some of the other stuff around the league, and I was kind of riding on that Padres fan train for a while there with their young fun team, and of course Hosmer's there, so that's
Yeah,
always cool. But once they went out, I was pretty much off again, and I haven't paid. Honestly, I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to the Rays and the Dodgers. I've seen some highlights and stuff on Twitter. It seems like it's going pretty well. It's hard for me to get into baseball whenever it's not one of my teams in there. So
understandable. The game 1, you had the Dodgers and the Rays. Dodgers beat them. It went up 1 on the series, and then with game 2, they ended up tying it. So now you get into game 6 tonight with the Dodgers leading with 3-2. You think this goes to game 7, or do you think they end it here tonight with game 6?
who's on the mound tonight? Do we know?
Let's see.
Kershaw pitched game 4, didn't he?
I believe he did. Let's look
Okay.
that up. Let's see who
Well,
on the
riding on
mound.
that, then I think as long as Kershaw's not pitching, then the Rays got a chance at least. I just wouldn't want to see him. I am the Rays.
Yeah, that's no joke. Kershaw is another freak athlete amongst his
Yeah,
respected.
he's one of those walking Hall of Famers. He's anytime one of those guys are on the field on the court, in whatever sport they're playing, you gotta give them their respect, even if you are going head to head with them, going for the ultimate prize. I mean, you can't just look at Kershaw and act like he's any other pitcher and try to be big and mean up there. I mean, the dude's just gonna put it right back down your face. You have to pay respect where it's due.
Looks like tonight it's going to be Blake Snell versus Tony Gonsolin. To be honest with you, I've never heard of him.
Yeah, that's fine then. I think it's a wide open game then. I'm going Rays 3-2. That's my ultimate prediction, and it's gonna be the score.
I'm gonna have to go with the Rays tonight too. I think the Rays take it to Game 7. I think ultimately, if you don't see Kershaw back on the mound in Game 7, which is obviously a
He will.
possibility,
He
uh,
will. If the series is on the line, Kershaw's coming out. We're getting Madison Bumgarner vibes versus the Royals back in 2014. It's you don't just sit your hot dude in that circumstance.
yeah, you know, the Rays have been good. They showed that they were good this season. I know they have a pretty good ace down there, but I just
Right.
don't know. You know, Tyler Glass now up against Clayton Kershaw, Game 7 maybe, but I just
Not to
don't
mention
know
you
if the
got
Rays can pull that out up against Kershaw.
right. Not to mention you got Mookie Betts out there acting like Mr. October himself, stealing bases left and right, getting clutch hits whenever they're needed. I mean, Mookie Betts is no joke, and I'm sure that the Boston Red Sox fans out there aren't too thrilled with him not being on their squad anymore. But as is baseball to do, whenever it's no salary cap, you just kind of go wherever you can get the most money, and it seems like those big markets always get the best players. So that's my one big problem with baseball. It makes it hard to get into.
It really does. You're always having people change, but I'll tell you somebody that's never going to change a team, and I guarantee it. He's going to go out just like old Alex Gordon did for the Kansas City Royals this year. Will be Mike Trout.
Yeah, I think Mike Trout had plenty of opportunities at this point to leave and go ring hunting and do anything like that, but it just doesn't seem to be his wish at this point. He seems to be pretty happy with where he is, and I don't know if he's just complacent there and wants to try to build something, or if they're just paying him enough money to where he's just fine with it. I'd love to pick his brain to figure out what's going on there.
It kind of comes back to the Whit Merrifield thing that they've been talking about for the past couple of years of whether or not do they trade Whit or do they keep him. Having a veteran on the team now that you have this young team in the Royals that they're all super young and everything like that, you want to have somebody in there now that, especially now that Alex Gordon's gone and nobody can really pick his brain anymore. Obviously, he'll probably be at the games a lot. I'm sure he'll still be welcomed in that dugout, but you you know it comes back down to that. Do you want to keep Mike Trout around, keep paying him the money? Granted, he is the best player in the MLB hands down right now. I don't think anybody will touch him anytime soon. But do you keep him around, or do you look elsewhere? Maybe he wants to look elsewhere. Although I could see him wanting to stay with the Angels and building something around himself, or having them build around him. But just as of late, it doesn't seem like they've had anything going for them.
If you're the Angels, you absolutely 100% without a doubt keep Mike Trout. Of course, he's the biggest name in baseball. Like you said, pretty much perennially the best player in the sport. Most people don't even try to combat that at all. I just think when you have that kind of draw, you keep him on your team, especially like I said, with baseball being one of those sports that seems like people don't always care as much about the rings as much as getting going where they can get the most money. And if you're a team like the Angels and you probably don't have as big of a budget as a team like the Dodgers or the Yankees, I think you just keep what you can and just try to keep raising those funds for your team. And then maybe you just hit in the draft one year and finally get some people to raise up around them. And you just kind of have to do the homegrown thing like some of these other teams have to do that don't have the luxury and the funds that those big teams do.
Yeah, and speaking of money and sports, I would love to be a professional baseball player where the money's guaranteed all the time, unlike the NFL where a lot of it comes through endorsements and all these career milestones. If you meet certain milestones, you get paid an extra $500,000 or whatever it may be. But I can
Right.
understand, especially in the MLB, these teams. It kind of blows my mind that the Rays are even there because forever you never heard a single thing about the Rays until the past 2 years when they really started stepping up. And now look at them; they're here in the World Series facing the Dodgers, who ultimately have the upper hand on them. But every dog has his days, and there's a possibility that this game tonight goes to game or ends with the Rays. I'm gonna predict that it's gonna be a 4-2 game Rays, taking it to Game 7, where, like we said earlier, you're gonna see Kershaw on the mound.
Okay. What was the Rays' record last season? You know that? I'm trying to find it.
Tampa Bay Rays record 2019.
Finished
The
96 and
Rays,
66.
so they finished second in the division.
Right, and they had a really good season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
so I guess the Rays are just, I, I haven't paid a lot of attention to them. I mean, have they? Is this all homegrown?
I think they went out and they picked up some people. They have Kevin Kiermaier, who
Right.
he's been around the league, but he's been there
They
for a
have
little
Hunter
while.
Renfro on their team,
They
not to
do
be
have Hunter
confused with
Renfro.
the Renfro on the Las Vegas Raiders. Um, yeah, like I know some of these players. I don't know how long some of them have been with the team. Um, but like it looks like a bunch of dudes that they just got all together at the right time. If I had to guess,
Kind of like
I'm not
2015,
a foremost baseball expert by any means, so
like the 2014, 2015 Royals. Young team, a lot of talent. Unfortunately, 2014 they ended up losing the World Series to
in
Madison
seven,
Bumgarner.
would like to mention in seven we did fight that.
We did, we did indeed. And then we
If
come
it
around
wasn't for
2000.
Madison Bumgarner having the greatest postseason of all time, then we would have been fine.
And you turn around in 2015, you have the Royals. They go to the World Series again in a very fine fashion of the entire postseason being very scary, and then them winning it most of the time in the eighth inning, which was like their favorite thing to do and scare the rest of the city. But they ended up pulling
That
that one
was
out. So
that was back when the Royals had the recipe, right? I mean, they won with pitching. I mean, the offense was fine and they were good for at least 2 to 4 runs a game. It seemed like, but if we could get to the sixth inning, the game was over. Because then you had the big three start coming in, and they would shut all the games down between Herrera, Davis, and Holland. They could just
oh, Wader,
put
Wade
everybody
Davis.
away. So and that kind of put out a blueprint for some other teams, and we kind of exploded the relief pitcher market, I believe, at that point, and pitchers started getting relief pitchers started getting paid a lot more and a lot more specialized, and kind of changed some stuff up there a little bit. Kansas City Magic in the mix, but we haven't been able to get quite that lucky in some time. They got some young dudes on the team. Maybe here in the next few years they can start building it back up to something good again for old David Glass, who passed away this year.
Yeah, now that Ned Yost is gone, they have a new manager down there who looks like this year, watching the pitching, looked like he really knew how to run a bullpen there. They're gonna have some new guys coming up, some young guys coming out of Omaha up there with the Storm
Right.
Chasers, but it looks like for the most part he's got that bullpen hammered down. So as long as you have a strong bullpen and you get some guys up there that can consistently, like Witt, can consistently hit, get on base, put runners in position, and just bring home some runs. That's all you need in baseball. This is those blooper hits that win games. You're not looking to hit for the fence every time. So
Right.
looks like
I
maybe
think
within the next 5 years, the Royals could be back in contention for the World Series. Is what I'm guessing.
we can cross our fingers. I just think the most exciting thing about having a team that's not exactly a contender is that you typically take more risks and bring up dudes maybe a little bit earlier than they typically would be. Like I've already seen people talking about how the Royals first round pick just this last season, Bobby Witt Jr., could possibly be seen playing time as soon as next season. Like people have even been saying opening day roster, which I think is a bit far fetched. But if the dude comes up at all just next season, I mean, you don't typically get guys just 1 year removed from the draft on your team, but they're showing
Yes.
promise like that, and they're young, and your team's not exactly going anywhere quite yet. And that's when teams start pulling the trigger on stuff like that earlier, and that's always exciting to see.
All right, so switching from baseball now to the NFL, the most watched sport in America right now, and it seems like about it's never going to change. I mean, they've got baseball beat, which is, called America's pastime, but switching over to that now, let's talk about what's going on around the league. Cowboys today just decided, we suck on offense. We don't have Dak, and our defense is struggling, but let's go ahead and get rid of our D end, Everson Griffin, trading him away to the Lions nonetheless for a sixth round pick. What do you think about that?
It almost makes me think there's been word coming out of the Cowboys camp, right, that there's been a lot of displeasure among the coaching staff from the players' point of view. We've heard reports coming out of unnamed players and sources inside of the organization strongly disagreeing with how the team's been run. And you almost wonder if maybe Everson Griffin could have possibly been one of the dudes raising a big stink about the whole thing. He's not a bad player, and would they get a 6 round pick for him?
Yeah.
I mean, the defense has been horrendous. They're the worst defense in the league, and maybe he's that low of a value because the defense has been so bad, or maybe he's that low of a value because they were really, really, really trying to get rid of him. And I can't really tell at this point, but I think who'd they trade with?
The Lions.
The Lions. I think the Lions are going to be pretty happy with that deal because picks are nice and all, but a 6 round pick doesn't hit too often in the NFL, and Everson Griffin's at least going to give you some depth at the position at the very least. So I think I think they're the winners of that deal.
Cowboys are coming off of not such a hot start this season, especially losing Dak Prescott to that broken ankle. But not a good look for Mike McCarthy. After what he had up there in Green Bay, a Super Bowl caliber team with Aaron Rodgers, you go down to Texas where they haven't been hot for quite some time back in the 90s when they were going to Super Bowls and winning Super Bowls left and right back in the day, but man, oh man, it's not looking good for him this season.
Yeah, let's put it this way: the Cowboys are lucky that they don't have any fans or limited fans in the stadium at the very least. Because I'm pretty sure Mike McCarthy would have been ridden out of town
Oh, for
on
sure.
some bighorn at this point. I don't. I think if you're Jerry Jones, it's going to be hard for you to bite a bullet and admit that you made a mistake. But at the same time, I think if you want to continue your facade as this amazing owner like he is wont to do,
Slash
then
GM slash coach apparently.
right, then I think he needs to fire Mike McCarthy by the end of this season and completely restart again. Nobody likes to have a one and done coach. Typically, one and done coaches aren't proven coaches that have won Super Bowls either. However, this is not working, so there needs to be some big change, whether that's getting rid of Mike McCarthy or trading your entire team away and figuring something else out because they need some sort of culture change or something there because it's not working. And hey, we got a pretty good coach up here in Kansas City that's been looking for a job for the last couple of seasons, and that'd be a pretty good landing spot for him if Houston doesn't snatch him up first.
Talking about old Coach Bieniemy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man deserves a head coaching job, but really hate to see him leave KC, especially with this high-powered offense that we've got up here. But
Right, and you hear about some of these other whiz kid coaches, so there's of course another chance that he gets slighted again out of nowhere for another McVay disciple or something. But you know I think he's proven to this point that he deserves a starting job. He's inventive. He knows how to work with star players. He knows how to treat players. He's a disciple of Andy Reid. Coaches under Andy Reid have gone to do pretty good things in the NFL. I think he'll get a shot this season, and deservedly so.
yeah, absolutely. Back on the Cowboys, getting rid of Jason Garrett. Maybe you look back on that now and you're like, yeah, granted, Jason Garrett may not have been a great head coach, but you look at that season, maybe it wasn't all the coaching, A lot of that could fall back on Jerry Jones as well, and people are just like, oh no, just let that man be. He's built this team for what it is. No, you can't always place blame on the coach. You can't always place blame on the players either. I think, Jerry Jones needs to go ahead and just step down.
Yeah, of course it wasn't the coaching. I mean, Cowboys fans sold themselves on it. A few other people sold themselves on it, and like you said, I don't think Jason Garrett's going to be winning any Coach of the Year awards anytime soon if he ever gets another shot. But you can't coach a team where the owner is always perched on your shoulder and can just supplant you at any time and have the players go directly to them. There has to be a hierarchy that has to be
Chain of command.
respected, a chain of command in these situations where it's very clear cut players, coaches, ownership. And you cannot overstep those bounds or else your team starts falling apart. And I think that's what's happening here because I mean you look at the last coach that did good with the Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson, and he and uh, Jerry Jones butted heads all the time, and that's why Jerry Jones got rid of him, brought in old what's his nuts to come in and win another Super Bowl with the team that Jimmy Johnson had, and then they haven't had any success since. So I think Jerry Jones just needs to go sit on his yacht during the football season, turn off all sorts of communication, and just let his team run.
Yeah, let the coaches handle that.
Right.
That is, yeah, that's a big thing right there. Is that chain of command? You lose that, You lose respect for your coaches. You lose respect for your owners. You lose respect for even your own teammates. Like you're gonna have players that run into that issue, and you see it all the time. Where
And
especially like
obviously, the Cowboys have a problem respecting some of their teammates with how you see they dealt with that Andy Dalton situation.
yeah, that's no joke.
Nobody came in to defend him after that big hit. I mean, that's a bad look. You even
It's a red
had,
rocket.
I know, and you even had the season before when you had a backup quarterback in with Mason Rudolph with the Steelers gets smacked on the head by Miles Garrett, and what's the first thing that happens? Pouncey jumps on top of him and starts trying to beat the crap out of him. I mean, that's what you want to see whenever, I mean, really any player on your team, but especially the quarterback is being attacked. I mean, you you have to jump to their defense, and that was just it looked bad on the part of the Cowboys.
It really did. Now, speaking of quarterback, you think after this season, do you see Dak finally getting that 5-year deal that he's been wanting, but they wanted a 4-year deal, but it's 1 year. But
Are you saying with the Cowboys
yeah, do you see him
or
getting
just
it
in
with the
general?
Cowboys, or do you think they're gonna try to franchise tag him and he might look elsewhere?
Well, I don't think there's a chance in hell Dak Prescott's playing under the franchise tag. Um, he wants a deal, and I would say that the Cowboys would be incredibly stupid to let him go. Not that Dak Prescott's the best quarterback in the NFL or anything, but he's obviously at least like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And if you don't have any sort of promising uh, prospects to come up underneath him, then you're absolutely insane to let him go. You overpaid Ezekiel Elliott. You overpaid some of your offensive line. You can afford to overpay a quarterback if it doesn't work out in the long run, and I think that's what they need to do. Um, I think they could possibly work out a 4-year deal over a 5-year deal, but they're going to have to pay him. And if not, then we'll probably see Dak Prescott on just a team to throw out there for fun and shit and giggles. How about the Washington football team next season?
Bold statement. Bold statement.
Yeah.
I'd, you know, yeah, it's a possibility maybe, but with what's going on up there in Chicago, you think maybe
Chicago.
they try to go after a little Dak Prescott and see what he can do, and just get rid of Trubisky and keep Foles as maybe their
Bulls.
backup.
Oh, Chicago, where quarterbacks go to die. Um, I don't like honestly. If I'm a quarterback in the NFL, I don't want any part of Chicago. When's the last time they had any sort of good quarterback there? It's been ever. So I don't know. That just seems unless they get Eric Bieniemy. I don't hate Matt Nagy. I don't think he's done a great job, but I think that lesser coaches would be in a much worse spot than the Bears are in right now. Um, so I think they'll be fine up there, but I think the Bears are going to have to draft a quarterback. I don't see how they keep bringing these quarterbacks in. It's just pathetic.
Do we want to talk about pathetic? How about those New York Jets?
You mean the Chiefs victims this upcoming week?
It's funny, we go out and we pick up Le'Veon Bell, and now the second week he gets to play, he's going up against his old team. So whatever caused him to step down from up there and be released, whether it's the old Adam Gase
I was
umbrella
about to
where
say
he's
it's
never
it's
been
this dude
successful.
called Adam Gase. That would be the reason why Le'Veon Bell was unhappy. And old Wild Eyes Gase, I'm surprised still has his job. It just tells me that they're absolutely 100% tanking for Trevor Lawrence, which I think is idiotic at best. Because their team, I think quarterback is the top problem there.
No, it definitely starts
For
with
one, it's head coach.
head coach.
For and then offensive line, I think is a big
Yes.
deal because you look at poor Sam Darnold out there. Still can't really judge how great Sam Darnold is. He shows some flashes every once in a while. He still makes some boneheaded plays at the same time, but the dude's typically running for his life every game. So I'd probably make a lot of mistakes too.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think Sam Darnold could actually be a maybe top 10, if not top 15 caliber quarterback, but you're just not going to see that anytime soon, especially with the old Adam Gase umbrella up there just hovering over everybody. But
However, if they do get the first pick in the draft, and I think in that case you absolutely do have to draft Trevor Lawrence, either that or you have to trade the pick. But if you're picking there and you don't pick Trevor Lawrence, you're an idiot. So what I think they do is they draft Trevor Lawrence and try to ship off Sam Darnold, kind of like a Josh Rosen type situation. And in that case, I can see the Indianapolis Colts being very interested in Sam Darnold.
that, yeah, especially with they have old crybaby Rivers down there, who is,
Rivers has been having a fine season.
and just he's not what he was when he was with the
Well,
Chargers.
no.
So, but
Neither is Drew Brees, and people seem to not want to talk about that. So,
talk about the Jets possibly getting Trevor Lawrence. That's if Trevor Lawrence decides that he wants to come out of college. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. If
Trevor
he's,
Lawrence is coming out of college.
I,
The only reason you'd go back to college is if you don't think you'd be the number one overall pick, and he would be the number one overall pick.
just don't know if he really wants to go up there and possibly have a Sam Darnold career where you never know. You
The
see what
Sam
he's done
Darnold
in
career where you
college, and
still make like $20 million.
yeah, I
I
mean,
think
don't
he'd
get me
be all
wrong.
right.
I'd like to play in the NFL, and I'd sit on the practice squad for the money that they make. But you know, it's just one of those things. Talking about another team up north, how about those New England Patriots? Are they dead?
Um, I can never call a Bill Belichick team dead. However, they do have their fair share of problems, and the fact that a Bill Belichick defense has been looking this poor is shocking. But they did have a lot of people sit out this season. I think they've probably had a couple injuries as well. But every team's dealing with about the same thing. So
Yeah, especially with the old COVID-19 going around right now, and half their team having it was what it sounded like. But you know, Cam Newton comes out of Carolina, and all of a sudden he's up there with one of the great, if not the greatest coaches of all time, Bill Belichick. But
the
he's not
greatest,
looking
number
hot.
one.
Tell you that
No, and
much.
he started off looking all right, but he's always looked better when they're running the ball. Whenever he can do his like RPO type stuff, and then when the running starts working and they can start working the play action in, that's when Cam Newton's been at his best. And the run game just hasn't been there. And I don't know if that has to do with the teams they've been up against or if it's just not great scheming. But maybe old Josh McDaniels up there in New England starting to lose some shine from some of his prospects, because I know people are always looking at Josh McDaniels as a possible coach,
Yep.
even though he utterly failed in Denver. But we're just gonna act like that didn't happen, I guess.
you know, Cam Newton after all that, and let's not exactly blame Cam Newton for everything because what does he have at wide receiver? I mean, Julian Edelman's constantly hurt every week. Uh,
Julian Edelman's a walking corpse.
he really is. It's almost more of a Danny Amendola, Wes Welker type thing. I think it's time for him
Hey,
to
Danny Amendola had a nice catch this last week.
once in a million chance, but I think it's all time for Edelman to hang up those cleats. He doesn't have Brady up there anymore, who that was his number one favorite target after Gronk had left, and I just don't know if you'll see the Patriots going to the Super Bowl anytime soon. That's just my prediction for at least the next couple of years until they figure out that offense and get some more weapons, especially at the wide receiver core. And once they figure out that running back game, I don't know what the hell they're doing up there. They've got seems like 900 running backs, and they just keep rotating them every play, but never giving
Yeah, and I
anybody a
never,
shot to really stand out up there.
play the right one on my fantasy team, so that's always great. But
that that's the thing.
do you think that Julian Edelman was in Bill Belichick's ear this offseason? Like, hey, 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 do you think you can sling me for a seventh round pick down to Tampa? Like, hey, Just throw me down there in Tampa. I'm sure they'll take me in some sort of trade. And
Yeah, I
then
don't know.
Bill
I
either
don't.
said no or couldn't work something out. Like I
And
just
you look down there at that Tampa Bay team, look at that wide receiver core. I don't think they need a washed up wide receiver.
no, they don't. But I think if Tom wanted them, they would have got them.
I don't know. It seems
So
like
I
Bruce
just
Arians is
wonder.
pretty headstrong down there, and he doesn't really like to give in to Tom as much as what Tom wants
Oh,
him to.
whatever. They signed Antonio Brown, and I know Bruce Arians said, "Oh, Tom didn't say anything about
Yeah,
whatever."
yeah,
Bruce, you're lying. You're lying to
yeah.
our face,
After
and I
Bruce
get it.
Arians
You're
even
a
came out and
coach,
said, "I don't want that in my locker room," and now he's
right at the
changed his
beginning of the season.
yeah. But hey, who knows? You know, who knows how
Let
long
them have Antonio Brown.
who knows how long Antonio Brown will be in the season. He's got that court case coming up, and if you know what Bruce Arians said, if he ends up being guilty, he's gone. They're not going to have him
Well,
around
yeah,
down there anymore. So
yeah. No one will have him because
rightfully
he'll be in
so.
jail.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah, and
100% disagree or agree with that one. So
right. So we'll see if Antonio Brown adds up to anything. The real question mark down there has been Mike Evans, though. He's been seeing kind of a decrease in productivity the last few weeks, and I know that the big talk of the town at wide receiver has been Michael Thomas possibly upset in New Orleans. However, I wouldn't. Maybe kind of a dark horse candidate here, but maybe if they can get something done. I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay somehow slings a deal with Mike Evans to somebody here for like a first round pick. Well, maybe a second round pick. I don't know if you can get a first out of Mike Evans at this point, but I wouldn't be super surprised to see that. I'd be a little surprised, but you know, it's kind of something to watch out for, especially with Scotty Miller kind of coming on lately too, and Gronk's getting back to form a bit, and
yeah, they're
Chris
finally
Godwin's
using him,
amazing.
finally
So
using Gronk as an actual receiving tight end instead of just a blocking tight end like they wanted to do in the first couple weeks there. But what do you think? Speaking of wide receivers, what do you think about that whole trade in the offseason with DeAndre Hopkins over to the Cardinals?
yeah, there's not much left to be said about that. Worst trade in recent NFL history. Not good. Not good. That's what I would say about it. The Texans should have fired Bill O'Brien on the spot after that. Instead, they let him start off the season and then fired him. But yeah, I mean, what a horrendous deal. There's nothing else to be said about that.
Yeah, I just don't know. You know, there's been talk about Bill O'Brien for a long time. He was being a head coach and a GM at the same time, which I don't think is ever a good idea. Just like you know down there in Dallas, but
Well, Bill Belichick.
yeah, yeah, I take that back.
That's
I
how
will
he.
agree
That's
with
how he
that one,
rolls.
but
However, he is the best coach of all time. So you know, maybe it's a little different in those circumstances. I mean,
yeah,
even Andy Reid doesn't want to bother with being GM. So
you don't have to when you have Brett Veach. That man
yeah,
is a genius. So
Brett Veach is really interesting. I'm still not 100% sold on Brett Veach. I would love to be. I just don't know how much of that I can put on Brett Veach and how much Brett Veach is just kind of a face for the work that Andy Reid has done. Because I feel like that's kind of what Andy Reid likes in his GMs. We saw the Chiefs had some more headstrong GMs in the past. Most recently, right before Brett Veach, they had oh, what's his nuts that went to Cleveland and got fired not that long ago, and everybody thought that he was an awesome GM, and then he goes to Cleveland and sucks. So, you know, I think that, you know, contrary to how Patrick Mahomes makes everybody on the field look better around him, I think Andy Reid makes his staff look better around him too, to a degree.
yeah, I mean, I can 100% agree on that. Are you talking about old Dorsey, by the way, the old GM,
Dorsey, yeah, yeah, yeah.
old John Dorsey? But yeah, but you know, at the same time, I think Brett Veach is he is a solid GM. You know, going out and picking up Patrick Mahomes. And now that you have
Right.
Patrick Mahomes, you see in the draft, he said, "Let's go ahead and let's go get Clyde." He said, "Please
The
get
guy
me
that
Clyde
Patrick
for
wants.
that backfield." Yeah, so you know maybe maybe Patrick Mahomes has a future somewhere in the GM spot
Well, he's
after his
already an owner,
career. So
so
Yeah, he already has part ownership in the Kansas City Royals, so maybe he, after his career is all said and done, hopefully he has a fantastic career. He's already off to one hell of a start. But
I think he'll be too busy being a franchise owner of like 20 Whataburgers here in Kansas City by that point. He's already got two of them brought in here. You can see by the time he's done, there will probably be about 15 to 20 locations around the metro, and he'll probably be part owner in all of them. So,
and officially the face of Heinz ketchup. So
it's Hunt's.
Hunt's, whatever it is,
Which
it's
should be
ketchup.
easy to remember considering he's owned by Lamar Hunt and Hunt's Ketchup.
That
So.
makes sense. But yeah, you know, freak of nature there at quarterback for the old Kansas City Chiefs. All right, let's hop over into some fantasy talk here this week. Talking
Ooh,
about
everybody's favorite. Everybody loves hearing about other people's fantasy teams. You know, it's everybody's favorite thing to hear about how bad their fantasy team is doing. You know, so let's get into it.
comparables here. Start off with the old power rankings here for quarterback. Number one, we got obviously Patrick Mahomes. His matchup this week against the New York Giants or Jets.
Easy,
Easy
easy
start.
money.
Easy start. He's projected to get 23.1 points in standard league, and in PPR, it looks like he's projected at 23.1 is the same. So
Yeah, you'd think that he wouldn't be catching too many passes, so that would make sense.
So we got in the power rankings from all the experts. Number one is Patrick Mahomes against the Jets. We got Aaron Rodgers, who undoubtedly after last week, him and Devontae Adams putting up the points that they did up against the old Texans there. We got him sitting second this week up against Minnesota.
Here's my first dispute. This is my first dispute, the number 2 overall spot. I think Tom Brady gets it this.
Ooh.
Tom Brady is playing the New York Giants. Atrocious, absolutely atrocious football team. And Tom Brady is on a hot streak. And now he's got one of his best friends back in Antonio Brown. Him and Gronk are clicking. He found a new wide receiver in Scotty Miller. He's got the deep threat burner in Chris Godwin. And then, hey, if he wants to show up, Mike Evans, come join the party. You got Ronald Jones running the ball. Leonard Fournette had a good game last week. This team is crazy. I think Tom Brady will be the second highest scoring fantasy quarterback this week.
I could see it going up against, the
and they got him at 4th.
They do. Going up against the terrible Giants defense, but you also have Aaron Rodgers going up against Minnesota's defense, who has proven this year that they're not the greatest either. So,
hey, they have a dude named Yannick Ngakoue on their defense. Okay.
Yeah, one man can't create your defense for you. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know.
But so we got old Patrick Mahomes sitting there at number one, Aaron Rodgers at 2. With a disputed argument there from Weston, thinking Tom Brady should be number 2. Number 3 is Russell Wilson going up against San Francisco.
Agreed.
What do you think about that
San Francisco's
matchup,
defense still beat up.
Russell
Wilson's still the favorite for MVP, even though he had a slip this last week. Russell Wilson's amazing. Not much else to be said about that. I think that makes sense. He'll get you some ground yards, some easy points that way. He'll throw 2 or 3 moon balls to Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf for touchdowns, and hell, maybe David Moore gets in there. Is that his name, David? Something like that. Something Moore gets in the end zone too, and then
you're right, David Moore.
Right, so he's got a wealth of weapons, and that San Francisco defense, while it's you think of it as great, they're missing a lot of players on that defense right now, and I think he'll have a field day.
And here's my argument for number 5, old Carson Wentz.
Yeah, what's he doing there?
Oh God, I don't even think he should be in the top 10.
No. I changed my mind. Carson Wentz should be number 1. He's playing Dallas.
Yeah, but you got Justin Herbert going up against Denver, who has a beat-up defense too. They don't have Von Miller, so.
Denver kept Patrick Mahomes to like 200 yards this last week.
Yeah, but we proved that all we have to do is run it this year, so that seems like our
go-to
play.
But I'm not saying Denver's going to win the game. I'm just saying their defense is good. It's not great, but they're good. Unlike the Dallas defense, which is absolutely any other week, Carson Wentz would be like 12th. But being fifth here, I think, is absolutely fair against Dallas.
Being a big KC fan and a hometown boy here, but I hate to say it, but the matchup with Derek Carr this week, you think that's a better matchup for him, who proven he has his weapons, and I don't know if he's if we could say he's better than Carson Wentz this year, but he's going up
Derek
against
Carr's being
Cleveland.
Derek Carr's being absolutely slighted at 17th in the power rankings here. The fact that Kirk Cousins is 3 spots higher than him should be reported as murder. This is
Disrespect.
fucking atrocious. Derek Carr should be top 10 this week. I have no problem saying that. I would kick Matt Ryan out of the top 10.
Oh, for sure.
I think I'd put Derek Carr about right at 10th on this list.
For sure. They've got at
I
11th Teddy Two Gloves going up against Atlanta's defense. I understand why he is so high on that matchup, but
Teddy's a good quarterback.
Teddy is a good quarterback. He's just, I
Not
think
a great
he's
quarterback.
I think he's
He's a
struggling with
good
her there
quarterback.
without Christian McCaffrey. So,
Got a first-year head coach still.
yeah. Let's see.
But the
Let's go
Panthers have looked good.
down this list. This list right here. They got old Drew Brees sitting 21st going up against Chicago's defense.
Absolutely fair. Drew Brees is trash. I will stand by that point.
I would stand by that too. He has definitely lost the
I
magic that he had and all those records that he's had. It's not. I don't see it going anywhere else after this. I think it's time for him to take a seat, almost like I said for Tom
it's
Brady
his last
last year.
season.
So,
It's his last season without a doubt.
oh, for sure, I
Um,
completely agree with that one.
I'm just not sure if I would put like 21st may not be a bad spot for him on this list because I don't know if I can comfortably say that Jimmy Garoppolo or somebody like Tua making their first start, or definitely not Nick Foles or Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold should have a position over him. But it's almost sad to see Drew Brees down here at 21st on the rankings.
What's really sad is they've got Jimmy Garoppolo sitting 22nd, but they're claiming his matchup to be a fantastic matchup going up against Seattle this week. What do you think about that?
Um, I think the game's going to be good. I don't see Jimmy Garoppolo exactly having the best game. Because I think Debo Samuel's kind of banged up at this point. They still got Mostert on IR. Um, I think Jeff Wilson may have got hurt in their last game. I don't know what Jerick McKinnon's doing, but that Kyle Shanahan's one of those coaches that he can throw any sort of running back out there, and they're gonna get 250 yards on the ground and like two rushing touchdowns. So I think as long as the San Francisco defense can play decent enough, they can at least make it close. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat Seattle, especially with Seattle coming off of a loss. I think they're going to be hungry. I think they're going to go in and take care of business, but I think the 49ers can keep it close. I just don't see Jimmy Garoppolo being what keeps them in it. Unless he's throwing like 2 yard passes to George Kittle and he just runs for 60 yards. That's always a possibility, I guess.
Yeah, but at some point you're going to run out of gas being George Kittle, and you're not going to be able to do that all game long. So they're going to have to find something that works out for him.
George Kittle is a freak, though.
I agree. Stepping over here from quarterback to running back, looking at this power ranking, at number one we got Derrick Henry going up against Cincinnati this weekend.
Easy claps.
Easy start, easy matchup there for him. I'm gonna predict he's easily over 30 points this week. They're projecting him at 24, but
Ooh.
I'm gonna put him up around the 30 mark there.
Tell
He's
me
a
how many
freak of
yards he's
nature.
getting. Tell me how many yards he's getting. Let's go full in here if you're saying he's getting 30. How many
Oh,
yards is he getting?
I think up against Cincinnati this week, I think he's looking easily. I won't say easily. I'll say he's up around 250, if not more.
250 yards?
Yeah,
Are
I
you
think
kidding me?
I, you know,
That's a joke.
I don't
Derrick
think it
Henry's
is.
going to rush for 115 yards and get 2 touchdowns.
Oh, I just don't know. I mean, granted, yes, they do have Ryan Tannehill who likes to throw the ball, and here as of late, he's found apparently what seems like a love in Adam Humphries. But I think it's gonna be a
Which I
very strong
hate, by
running
the
game
way.
with Derrick Henry.
Well, of course it's going to be a strong running game. What's the last time somebody ran for 250 yards in the NFL, though?
I mean, granted, yeah, that's true, but I don't know. I think he could possibly do it, but
You're off your rocker. If he gets 170 yards, I'd be blown away, let alone 250.
we'll just have to wait and see come Sunday. But so we got him at number one. Number two, we got Alvin Kamara easily. He's going up against Chicago. That's undoubtedly not even a question. Especially talking about with Breeze being what he is this year. That run game down there is still strong behind Alvin Kamara. So
Alvin Kamara is one of those running backs. It doesn't matter who they're playing. He's top 5 every week. So
absolutely, just absolute freak. Sitting at number three, we've got old Kareem Hunt with Cleveland going up against the Vegas Raiders, which is a weird thing to say now, but he's projected here at 20.2 points. Now I have him on my team, and I will say in the past couple weeks he's kind of scared me. He's off to a very slow start in the beginning, but then all of a sudden something happens and he catches some of those little dump offs, and every now and then gets one of those rushing touchdowns. But he still scares me every single week.
here's my first discrepancy on the running back list. I see, and this is going to be maybe a shock to some, especially for how much trash I've talked on the team so far. Ezekiel Elliott playing against the
Number five.
absolutely awful Philadelphia Eagles, even though they say on what is Fantasy Pro here that he's not got a great matchup this week. Zeke's still an elite back. I know he's had some troubles this season holding on to the ball. I think this is a bounce back game for him. I think divisional opponent and the Eagles must win game. They just got incredibly embarrassed by the Washington football team. I think Zeke's coming out and he's going to rush for your 250 yards against the Eagles.
And the old Arizona Cardinals 2 weeks ago. So that
Right.
was a sad game. But, you know, I think going back on that, I think the one thing that Ezekiel Elliott is really struggling with is he now thinks Dak's gone, so now I have to put this team on my back and carry him.
And he
Now,
does.
I 100% agree, but you can't let that be your downfall of focusing on that so much that you start struggling. And I just, now that I don't think Andy Dalton's going to be playing this week, and I don't even know who the hell their third string quarterback is.
He had a fun name. I don't remember it though.
uh, you never think that far down the line. You hope that your number one never gets hurt, but if your number one gets hurt, you at least have some notion of who number
Then you
two
want
is.
Matt
But
Moore. Yeah.
hey, that's no joke. Whatever happened to him in Kansas City? Is he still here or is he gone?
I don't know. They brought Chad Henne in the other day.
Yeah, I saw that. Didn't know if he was still, maybe practice squadding it up or whatever, but
Right, but I hear what you're saying about Zeke. I just think that I think he's had his 2 weeks now, his 2 or 3 weeks now of feeling that pressure of being the player, and I think it did get to him. I think he's ready to kind of let that go now and just play football. I think he's gonna have a bounce back game here. That's just my prognosis here.
what blows my mind on this list, looking at these running backs, you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire sitting at 9.
Behind Todd Gurley and Boston Scott.
Listen,
that
he's
one
going
was-
up against the Jets this weekend. Get it right here, Fantasy Pros. This is not a number 9 spot for Clyde. This is
The only
easily top 5.
The only thing that I can think of that'll keep Clyde Edwards-Helaire from busting out for like 25 points this week is if they decide to let Le'Veon Bell have his fun with his former team.
Now
that is the
that is
only
a thing.
thing.
And they've got even
That's
Le'Veon
keeping
Bell
him from
sitting on
happening.
this list at number 21. with a B- rating, and they've got him projected at 12.8 points. So, after watching his handfuls of runs here this past weekend, he shows that he still has that spark in him and that he still wants to do it. So maybe, yeah, I agree with you. Maybe they let him have his way with his old team here and really
He showed some
show what
juice.
they're missing out on here, especially now that after they've released him. But I don't agree with that number 9 spot right there for Clyde, especially behind Boston Scott, who, granted, yes, he's
Is
going up against
playing.
Dallas,
Yes,
but you have
that's
to
that's the
look
thing.
at where Clyde is playing. It is the Jets. Like, without a doubt, he is up above Todd Gurley and Boston Scott.
Todd
So,
Gurley's being overrated here for a last-second touchdown that any running back in the NFL would have had, considering that the Lions were letting him have it. So yeah, I think Todd Gurley's being overrated here. Don't think he's going to get you 18 points against Carolina. I'd be surprised to see him above 30.
now speaking of this, sitting at number 10 is old Giovanni Bernard. I thought
Bump
this
that man
dude.
up to number one. Bump him up to number one. I've got Giovanni Bernard fever.
Oh man.
Missed out on signing him from waivers in my league. Still pretty upset about that.
I just don't. I,
But
I don't know. Going up against Tennessee, I don't know how.
I don't care. Have you seen the man's mustache? Forget
that
Minshew mania. I've got Bernard fever.
that is true. He has a very stylish mustache here. Uh, Moving on from that, they've got, you know, granted he didn't really he's been hurt, but Aaron Jones at 13. What do you think about that one?
Um, Pathetic. I
Especially
think
going up
it's
against
bad.
Minnesota.
Aaron Jones is a top 10 running back every week. This is ridiculous. I would also like to point out James Conner at 12th. He's been
Yeah.
running roughshod lately.
Yeah.
You've got Todd Gurley, Boston Scott,
And Ronald Jones at
Giovanni
16.
Bernard, and Jonathan Taylor above a bunch of people that I think should be above them.
Man,
And
oh
yeah, I
man.
agree with Ronald Jones as well.
What I don't agree with here at number 19, they have Melvin Gordon the third sitting above, you know, granted it
It's a
is
get
David
back game though.
Montgomery and Le'Veon Bell, but you know, is Melvin Gordon is he dead? Coming out of
Um,
the Chargers, I don't understand why Denver and John Elway went out and picked him up when they had Philip Lindsay.
for this game specifically against the Chargers, where Melvin Gordon's going to be all pissed off at his former team and want to get back at him.
That's one game though. Like you have
You play him
Philip
twice
Lindsay
a
who's
year.
good,
You play
so
him twice a year.
okay. So you get maybe 2 wins if he goes off, but
Let me ask you this: if you could sign one player that's guaranteeing you 2 wins against a team, you would sign that player.
I mean yes, especially if I'm the Jets right now.
I don't think the Jets are trying to win any games. We've talked about this.
Yeah, I 100% agree on that one. All right, moving on from the running backs list, let's go over to the wide receivers and the power rankings. Number 1, Devontae Adams. After last week, I 100% agree with that one.
Easy, easy,
Going up
easy.
against Minnesota, he's got Aaron Rodgers, who, he's in this offseason, he said he went back and looked at his 2010 tapes, and no one knows what he was looking at, but I, he found something, obviously, and now him and Devontae Adams have had that connection this year. It seems like after even before he was hurt, but after that, coming off of that last week and their bye week, he really tore it up.
Well,
So
what really happened was Aaron Rodgers found his team drafting a quarterback,
yeah, and he
um,
stepped up.
and he got all sorts of mad at that, and understandably so, and decided to come out and say, "Hey, look how dumb my team is for drafting a quarterback." So,
Yeah, power rankings number 2, they have Tyreek Hill. Being a Kansas City fan, I like to see that in the spot, but
when's he shown it?
yeah, he hasn't shown up this season, and what it really comes
Oh, that's
down to
not
is,
true. He's got like 5 or 6 touchdowns this season.
yeah, but what it
But
comes down to is
they're all
he's double
spread out.
teamed. Well, he's double teamed
Right.
every single time. So
Tyreek Hill's a good he's a great wide receiver in general. It's just any of those Chiefs wide receivers, I'm kind of tentative on because it could be any of them any week.
Yeah, that's
Um,
going back to the Patriots running back game. That's exactly right. So
right. It's like when the Chiefs wide receiver core is completely healthy, you know, one week it could be Tyreek, next it could be Sammy, and the week after that it could be McCole, and then all of a sudden here comes Demarcus Robinson out of nowhere, and oh, you got Byron
Byron
Pringle
Pringle.
returning kickoffs, and then sometimes he just catches touchdowns too, and then of course Travis Kelsey, but we'll get there when we get there. But you know, it's just uh, it could be, you know, I could see him. I could see him being a top five fantasy receiver on any given week. It's just I would probably usually put Tyreek Hill around like that 8 mark, probably.
Yeah, for now I would agree with that one. So we move on from that. We go to number three. We got Julio Jones, and at number four, the man who chased down Buda Baker on an interception and absolutely stunned everybody. We got DK Metcalf.
One of the most exciting players in the NFL. I
Absolute
mean,
freak of
what
nature.
else? What's left to be said about DK Metcalf? The dude's a total stud. I mean,
And he looks terrifying.
just
How tall is
he's
that
just
man? He looks like he's about 6'6",
6'4".
250 pounds. He's absolutely huge. I would not like to see him chasing me down, especially with the speed that he had chasing down Buda Baker. And you know, Buda Baker, what he ran in the combine, he's like 4.46, if not less. I don't remember exactly what it was, but
Right. I mean,
that man's catching you.
both those dudes almost ran as fast as Daniel Jones. I mean,
Yeah, who
keep that in
almost
mind.
put his record up there as the fastest player in the NFL, taking that away from Tyreek Hill a couple weeks ago, which is absolutely insane. But you know, the turf monster jumped up and grabbed his shoelace or something because
He
he
said,
ended up
"No,
eating
no
it.
more of this, Giants, or not Giants." He said, "Yeah, no more of this, Giants fans. You guys don't deserve this."
You going back and watching that like film, I was just laughing because when they zoomed in on his face, you could tell he's like, "Oh my God, like I am hurting." He's about. It looked like he was about to just start cramping up, and you know maybe he did a little bit. Maybe that's why he ended up losing his balance and stumbling there. But that made me laugh so hard just watching that happen. And of course, you have the internet and Twitter with everybody making the memes of, "Oh, Chris Kyle played by Bradley Cooper sniping him," so bringing
Right.
that back.
And can
But
we talk about how there's two Falcons receivers in the top five on this list?
yeah, when you have sitting at 7 and 8, Keenan Allen and Adam Thielen, who are obviously the number one wide receivers for their respected teams, and you
I
have
completely disagree with the Adam Thielen being number one.
you don't think he is
No, look at number 13 down there on the list.
Justin
Justin
Jefferson?
Jefferson is a much better receiver than Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's a good wide receiver, and the only reason why he still might outscore Justin Jefferson for now is that he's been there longer.
The old
Justin
veteran.
Jefferson is a monster. Absolute monster. This dude, he's going to show you returns this fantasy season, but next season, this dude, I think, is going to be a consistent top five wide receiver week in week out. I know that's a bold prediction, but from what I've seen from him so far, the dude is insane, and that's with Kurt freaking Cousins throwing him the ball.
Now, I do agree with that, but let's uh let's take us a gander here at number 9 and the fact that Tyler Lockett is sitting behind number 5 Calvin Ridley. Oh my God. I think instead of having, you know, two Atlanta wide receivers sitting up there in the top five, I think you get Calvin Ridley out of there, and I think you put Tyler Lockett up there with DK Metcalf.
Are we just going to act like A.J. Brown shouldn't slide up into that spot?
I mean, I do agree with that too,
Against Cincinnati? Did
especially
you
against
see
Cincinnati.
A.J. Brown last week? The dude is insane. He is a number one wide receiver. Tennessee's been looking for this for a long time. They've spent a lot of draft picks on trying to get a number one wide receiver, and they have found it. This dude is crazy.
What blows my mind, and you know, I completely forgot about him, is old Kenny Galladay down there for Detroit playing against the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. What, like he? It seems like this past couple weeks he's come out of nowhere and just started like hey, look at me again. Because I remember back in the day, he was, one of the top wide receivers that you always heard about all the time, but then something happened, and now you're hearing about him again, making all these big time plays, especially in this game that they won this past Sunday with the old catch from T.J. Hawkinson in the last seconds of the game. But
It's good stuff.
Up against Indianapolis, him, and then Stephon Diggs up against New England. It's New England has proved this year that they're struggling on defense as well. They still have a pretty solid defense. They have Stephon Gilmore, and then they have the McCourty twins, who, respectively so, they are great athletes. But I just don't know right now with this whole Stephon Diggs. I think that matchup might be a little bit better than what they have it.
Right, I think Stephon Diggs would be higher on the list, but the Bills' offense has looked a little stale the last couple of weeks. I think this is a good get right game for them. Patriots have not been looking so hot. I think that Josh Allen can go out there and show out again, possibly, and if that's the case, then Stephon Diggs goes from being 14th to probably being 7th best wide receiver this week. So I would say look at him more as like a top 10 or around 10 than like top 15.
Coming back to the matchups, this guy, Travis Fulgham, he just has come out of nowhere, and with their matchup against Dallas this week and their ability to just be absolutely awful against wide receivers, I think that's a better matchup than what you see there. Although, he does have Carson Wentz, and they do have Greg Ward, who Carson Wentz likes to throw to in a bind, but this kid, Travis Fulgham, he's proven himself to be their number one, especially without Alshon Jeffries and who is the other one that they're missing out on right now? I believe it's their tight
Sean
end.
Jackson.
Yeah, well, Deshaun's back, but he's not
Zach
fully
Ertz.
yet. And Zach Ertz, that's it.
Dallas Goedert, maybe both. But yeah, Travis Fulgham's trying to take that exciting spotlight from Chase Claypool, who just had an abysmal week after being like the number one looking wide receiver ever a couple of weeks straight. So yeah, I mean, yeah, he came out of nowhere. That's what happens when your team's trash and is looking for a spark. These dudes get chances, and sometimes those chances turn into like real playtime. And Travis Fulgham showed so far that he deserves a bigger and bigger spotlight. He's got 18th on the list this week, and I think that's fair. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him keep climbing these boards if he keeps it up.
Yeah, especially with seeing how he played the past couple weeks. But let's move on from that. And person I feel kind of bad for here is old CeeDee Lamb without Dak Prescott, now without what seems like Andy Dalton. CeeDee Lamb fall by the wayside and they just stick to the run game, because who the hell knows what their quarterback situation is right now.
Yeah, I mean, him and Amari Cooper and what's the other dude's name? Michael Gallup. Yeah, they got a really nice looking receiver core and just nobody to throw him the ball. It's sad, but yeah, I think you're gonna see that the Dallas wide receivers aren't gonna be your best option for the rest of the season. Maybe try to trade them in your league if you have them. That would be my guess anyway.
So moving on from the wide receivers to tight ends, now we got number one. I can't believe this matchup isn't a 5-star, but Travis Kelce going up against the Jets, that's absolutely an easy go for it. If you have Travis Kelce in your league, you better start him. If not,
right, the dude's going to have 3 touchdowns, and you're only going to get 21 points from him, though, because they're all going to be at the 1-yard line. But that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
I mean, hey, get points any way you can. So, number one, we got Travis Kelce. We got George Kittle, obviously, the top two tight ends in the league, without a doubt.
Those two are going to be 1-2 every week.
Somebody that's trying to make a case here, old Darren Waller for the Vegas Raiders. He seems like, somebody that wants to be in contention for that top spot at tight end. But do I think he'll ever dethrone Travis Kelce? Unless Travis Kelce gets hurt, which God forbid that happens, that would absolutely destroy the Chiefs' offense right there. And I don't see Darren Waller ever passing up Travis Kelce or George Kittle overall.
Travis Kelsey's getting up there in age. I don't know how many seasons he's got left at this kind of pace. And then when he does kind of fall from that top spot, how hard's he going to fall? Is he going to go immediately to like a top 10 kind of guy, or is he going to fall more into like, bottom half kind of guy? I don't know. It's too hard to tell at this point. But Darren Waller's a hell of an athlete. And I think the only reason why we won't see him up there as much is that with Derek Carr as your quarterback, he doesn't take very many chances. And so Darren Waller has to get all of his yards and all of his touchdowns from like 5 to 10 yards slant routes that he then has to try to carry another 20 yards. Um, and so unless that changes, I think he'll be comfortably about the third best tight end in the league for a while.
I do agree with that, but maybe with this whole Tampa Bay team, maybe Rob Gronkowski there with old Tommy Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down there, but maybe he steps it up and he comes back and makes his return officially to the NFL, and he starts making his way up there into at least the top 5, which he is sitting 6th right now on the power rankings. Especially this week going up against the Giants. That's kind of sad.
Oh, but stop it.
But then
Gronk's comfortably where he is.
Yeah, I could make an argument to see that he might come back, but who knows? He is Gronk. He is very injury prone, and that has been proven.
He's got good hands. He just doesn't have the separation to do the kind of stuff that he used to like to do. He's a good red zone target. He'll get some touchdowns, and he'll get some 6-7 yard gains. But he's not going to be the same Gronk that we saw a few years ago. He's done with.
Somebody else that's been stepping up their game is old Jonnu Smith for the Titans this week.
Except for the last 2 weeks.
Cincinnati. Yeah, but
absolute garbage the last 2 weeks on my fantasy team. That's cool.
I think if I have him this week, I think it'd be one of those things I'd start, especially going up against Cincinnati.
Oh, don't get me wrong, I'm starting him. I'm just upset with his performance over the last couple of weeks on my fantasy team. But Jonnu Smith's a big target, and I think that he's probably the favorite tight end of Ryan Tannehill. Ferkser gets some nods, but I think Jonnu Smith's the better player overall. I think that Jonnu Smith should reel in the majority of it. I have them both on my fantasy team, just in case. I think Jonnu Smith will be good to go this week, as long as you don't have Kelce, Kittle, Waller. I don't know. I almost like him better than Mark Andrews this week. They're playing the Steelers.
I mean, that is fair, and it has been proven.
The Steelers' defense is scary.
Lately Lamar Jackson started out the season, they really wanted him to throw the ball more, but he's kind of, taking that step back, and he's like, if we're going to make plays, I'm going to have to make them with my legs. So
they're a running team at heart. That's what they've always been. The only problem is that they don't have a running back this season.
They really don't.
I mean, what happened with Ingram?
He's Ingram. He's getting up there.
Gus Edwards. I mean,
that is true too. The person talking about tight ends here, the person that I really feel bad for is number 13, old Evan Ingram. The kid he's got talent. He really does.
Hyper talented.
And it's
going
just
against the best defense in the league, though.
Oh, it's just unfortunate that he has to be sitting up there in old New York, sitting on the Giants, and I'm not going to say, Danny Dimes doesn't have it, but it just seems like that whole team doesn't have it this year, and they haven't had it for a while now. But
they did hire Joe freaking Judge as their coach instead of someone like, Eric Bieniemy. So maybe that's where some of their problems stem from.
Absolute fair argument. So moving on from that, let's go over to the flex positions this week. Obviously, if
Well, I
you
mean,
have,
it's all the people we've talked about
yeah,
so
you
far,
got Derrick
right?
Henry, Devontae Adams, Alvin Kamara, all those guys. I mean, if you're playing in a 12-person league like we do, I mean, the talent is spread out very far, so the old
Right. So
waiver
let's
pool
scoot.
is very thin.
Let's
Going
scoot
to
down here to
going
like
to
the
defenses. How
hundreds.
about that?
Well, hold on. Let's scoot down here to like the hundreds in the flexes, because, like you said, in a 12-person league like we've got, these are about the kind of people you'd have in your flex spot. Coming up this week, I like somebody like a Lamichael Pirine on the Jets.
Really? Going up against Kansas
Yes.
City?
Yes. Pirine's looked pretty good lately, filling in there. And I think that if you have a chance to pick him up and you don't have, like, if you aren't very confident in your flex spot and somebody like a Lamichael Pirine's out there, I mean, he's getting all the touches out of that backfield right now. I'd give him the ball. I'd give him the flex spot.
Would you like him over J.K. Dobbins this week?
I don't trust J.K. Dobbins. I don't trust the run game of the Ravens at all.
I think if I had to, if like we got right here, I think if I had to, I'd probably. I had him and I dropped him, but old Adam Humphries, I might start him in my
Or
flex
Scotty
squad.
Miller.
Scotty Miller as well. I do agree with that. Greg Ward is not a bad choice. He is.
I think he's a bad choice.
I,
I think he's if you don't have too many other choices, choice.
yeah, it's kind of what I'm saying here, but he's not a terrible choice if you absolutely have to have somebody in that flex spot. I think Greg Ward is a good option, especially going up against Dallas this week.
Do yourself a favor and stay away from N'Keal Harry.
Yes.
That just seems like it's never gonna work. I wouldn't do anything there. Maybe even somebody like a Demarcus Robinson this week, like a wide receiver 3 on the Chiefs. When you're going up against the Jets like this, it's whoever gets open first. Mahomes is going to get him the ball. He's not looking for any specific matchups in this game. He's just trying to get the ball to the open people. So if Demarcus Robinson can get open, he's going to get some points this week. And so I think those are good people to kind of look at for your flex.
Would agree with that. I would stay away from old Malcolm Brown, even though they're going up against Miami. Malcolm Brown has proven this season that he is not the top dog out there. So
Yeah, except for he took all the touchdowns away from Darrell Henderson this last week.
I started out the season with him. I didn't draft a starting running back because I'm an idiot, but I started out the season. I got him, and I dropped him very quick to now have Devontae Freeman at running back and Kareem Hunt, luckily enough. But now that Chubb is out, he is getting the workload there. So moving on from our flex spots, let's go back up here to the top and let's talk about some defenses this week. Number one, Chiefs obviously going up against the Jets. Chiefs is no doubt would be my number one pick this week. Tampa Bay going up against the Giants. Philadelphia Eagles against Dallas. I'm not 100% sold on that. I see looking down here the Los Angeles Chargers up against Denver this week. I think the Chargers should be in the top 3 spot.
Um, I could see that if Dallas had even Andy Dalton in at quarterback, but who's the quarterback of the Cowboys? What's his name? We never decided that. I'm looking it up.
Yeah,
this man needs a name.
And then you got, so top 3, you have the Chiefs, Tampa Bay, and Philly. After that, you have the Los Angeles Rams, followed by the Los Angeles Chargers.
Number they have a mobster as their quarterback, by the way, Ben DiNucci. So unless
who is this dude? Where is he from?
I believe he was a 6th-round pick this last season.
Oh, really? I've never heard that name in my entire life.
He's out of James Madison University.
Yeah, okay, that explains it.
He was drafted. Oh, sorry, he was drafted in the 7th round of this draft.
You're trying to make him feel better about himself, I guess. With the number 6 round, I guess I don't know how much that would make you feel better, but
hey, Tom Brady was a 6th rounder. We don't talk trash on 6 round quarterback here.
So following the two Los Angeles teams at 4-5, we have number 6. We have the Baltimore Ravens. At number 7, we have the Indianapolis Colts going up against Detroit. You know, at the beginning of the season, I thought Indianapolis was going to be the go-to defense this season. I thought they were going to have one hell of a year, but seems like they've fallen by the wayside these past couple weeks. But they are going up against Detroit, and to be
Sure, but
honest
give me
with
the
you,
Colts defense over the Ravens this week. I mean, give me a break.
yeah, I would for sure go up with that. But going up against Matt Patricia, I don't, I'm surprised he's still up there as a head coach for the old Detroit Lions. He did good when he was in New England, but I don't think, came in, he said, until I get my people in here, we're not going to be good. Well, you got to work with what you got. So,
I
I
think
don't
the only
know.
thing saving Matt Patricia at this point is that he looks better by comparison from the other absolute train wrecks of teams around the league.
Jets.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the Lions don't look great, and I don't exactly think Matt Patricia should be the coach there. But if you're looking around the league and you are a Lions fan, you feel a lot better when you see train wrecks like the Jets, the Giants, the carousel that Cleveland keeps going through.
Yeah.
You look at teams like this, and then you see what happens whenever a team like the Cowboys tries to bring in a proven commodity, and then it completely blows up in their face. I think you're almost scared maybe to try to go anywhere else.
I do agree with that one. So, yeah, you got sitting at number 8, the Buffalo Bills. Number 9, the New Orleans Saints going up against Chicago. Bills are going up against New England. Uh, I do like that matchup, especially with what's been proven these past couple weeks. At number 10, you got the Tennessee Titans going up against Cincinnati here. I I don't know how I feel about that, especially with Pittsburgh being at number 11 going up against the Ravens. Yes, they do have Lamar Jackson, but I think you have to bump up Pittsburgh there.
Yeah, I think you have to bump up Pittsburgh. I think you have to bump up New Orleans and the Chicago Bears defense as well. Games that the Bears play, it's like 17 to 20 every game. So I'm fine if I have New Orleans defense giving up 17 or 20 points and probably a turnover or two. So I'd feel pretty confident with that team. And then the Bears defense is just good. They'll probably get a turnover or two, and like I said, keep it to about 17 or 20. So I'd feel pretty good with either of those defenses this week. And then you've got the proven teams. Chiefs going up against the Jets. I think that's absolutely fair to be a top 3 pick. Tampa Bay's defense has been good all season, and they got a bad opponent. Eagles up against one of the worst opponents in the league. Rams up against quarterback. That's fair. Chargers up against a bad Denver team. So, I mean, I think a lot of these placements are pretty fair, but I would like to see maybe those teams move up a couple of spots.
I would agree with that one. At number 16, we have the Seattle Seahawks up against San Francisco. They've got it set here where it's a pretty decent matchup with their defense and their offense both being banged up. If you don't have these top defenses this week, like the Buccaneers, like the Chiefs going up against the Jets, I'm pretty comfortable if I have to start Seattle's defense this week.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't hate that.
I just don't
Uh,
know.
I would I would much rather see if I could get New Orleans defense because they haven't had a very good season, so I don't know how rostered they are at this point, but I think that'd be a pretty good pickup if you don't have one of those big defenses.
Yeah, especially or the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills going up against New England this week. They've showed that they're pretty tough out there or up there in Buffalo. So if you don't have one of these top 5 defenses that they have ranked this week, I'm I'm taking either the Bills, the Saints, or I'm taking the old Seahawks up against San Francisco.
Well, too bad you can't pick up any of those in our fantasy league because they're all rostered.
Yeah.
The best defense available in our fantasy league right now is the Tennessee Titans. Would you want to pick up the Titans versus Joe Burrow this week if you had to?
I don't think I would.
Joe Burrow scares me.
Joe Burrow does scare me. He is one hell of a quarterback even in his rookie year, and I think he's only going to get better as he, gets into the organization and starts learning things. I think, down the line, you're going to see him being as maybe a Super Bowl contender, which is something you haven't seen in a long time from the old Cincinnati up there. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think I take the Titans this week over Joe Burrow up there. So now,
yeah. Joe Burrow just had a huge week. He's been having huge weeks. I, I, I'm scared if I'm any team versus I think my team can win against the Bengals any week. But to say that you're going to keep them under wraps the whole game, that's a big ask.
I do agree. Now, moving away from fantasy to wrap up this show tonight, let's make our predictions. Who do you think is going to be the Super Bowl matchup this year?
I mean, can I just do the obvious one and go to Chiefs Seahawks?
You think it's going to be the Chiefs Seahawks?
I think that's the most obvious pick right now. My dark horse. I can't go away from the Chiefs in the AFC for multiple reasons. So I'm gonna keep it with the Chiefs. But my dark horse NFC team that I could see just snaking their way through, maybe getting some of that magic that this player's known for in the postseason, the Chicago Bears. I mean, they've been doing improbable things all season long, and if they get a hot streak going at the right time, and then you get that Nick Foles magic in the playoffs, I mean, anything's possible there.
Ah, no, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one. I do think the Seahawks are one of the top contenders for that, definitely, but my predictions, it's going to be the Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers.
What they were saying last season. Then look what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. I like what Aaron Rodgers has been doing as of late, and I think if this is, his season that he goes to the Super Bowl again, I think it might be his last season. So
Hmm.
I don't know, that's speculation. Nothing has been said about that, but I honestly think that if he gets himself back to the Super Bowl, especially, if it's up against the Chiefs, obviously I don't want to see him win it, but especially if he gets back there this season and he wins it, I think he might take his leave. I think he finally might just go and enjoy life and hang out and, you know, being a fan of the old Pat McAfee show. He's on there every Tuesday, so I think if, he retires, he might just resort to doing something like that. Or
No
maybe even
chance.
coaching.
No chance. Aaron Rodgers wants to play till he's 50 and beat out Tom Brady, except for instead of working on his flexibility and eating right in the offseason, he's just going to drink scotch and force his way through it.
It could happen. Well, do you have anything to finish out this show?
I think we should do our Week 8 picks. I've
Week
got the
8
schedule pulled
picks.
up right here.
All right, let's see.
Let's run through it. So Thursday, we've got the Falcons and the Panthers. Who you got?
Panthers.
I'm gonna go with the Falcons in
I
this
think
game. I
old
think the
Teddy Two Gloves
Falcons.
gets it done.
I think the Falcons feel absolutely stunned after their third huge, ridiculous loss of the season. I mean, they've got six losses, but it was their third where it was like, how the hell did you lose that game? I think they're going to bounce back and get their second win of the season against a Panthers team that's good, but definitely a winnable game in the division for the Falcons. All right, let's move on to Sunday then. We'll start with the Patriots and the Bills.
Bills, hands down.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bills in that one too. I don't think that Cam's gonna bounce back in that game. Here's a fun one: Titans and Bengals.
Both pretty explosive offenses. The whole Cincinnati not having Joe Mixon, though, I'm gonna have to go with the Titans with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. I like what they've got going up there. I think they pull it out this week.
I agree. I'm going Titans in this game pretty handedly. I think this will be a defense that Joe Burrow's going to struggle against, and I think he'll still do okay, but I think he'll get it put to him a bit this week. Let's move on to the Raiders and Browns, two Hugh Jackson teams.
Raiders, hands down.
Ooh,
Raiders.
okay. You know the Raiders are 3-3, and the Browns are 5-2. I
Yeah,
don't know
but
if I can say Raiders hands down, but I also have this feeling that the Raiders are going to win this game. I don't think the Browns are legally allowed to win back-to-back games multiple times in a season.
and it's Baker Mayfield.
Um, and yeah, I just do not trust Baker Mayfield.
Uh,
I really can't. I trust Derek Carr more than Baker Mayfield, which is
really saying something
not
there.
great if I'm a Browns fan. But yeah, I think the Raiders are going to find a way to pull out that win. Well, sadly, even though I want to see the Raiders lose every week. Sorry, Vegas fans. Um, okay, so then we move on. We've got Battle of the Blues and the Colts versus Lions.
You know, I I'm gonna go with Matt Patricia and old Matthew Stafford up there in Detroit, and
Ooh.
I'm gonna have to take them over Philip Rivers and the Colts.
Similarly to how I can't give the Browns back to back wins, I cannot give this Lions team that's skidded by the skin of their teeth against the Atlanta Falcons a win against a very well coached, well put together Colts team. I think they're going to handle business this week, but win by at least two scores. Let's move on to the Vikings and Packers then.
Packers, easy.
Yeah, I don't think that
You
one's
got
going to
Kirk
be even
Cousins at the
close.
helm over there in Minnesota. You've got uh, Cook who's hurt. There's just no way. I
Yeah,
think
I don't see that one being competitive at
think
all.
Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Rodgers take care of the old Minnesota Vikings and just destroy them this week.
You know, it's kind of funny at the start of the season. You know, you probably would have thought that this was going to be a good game because people came into this season thinking that the Vikings were going to be competitive at the least,
Yeah.
and look at them now; they're 1-5. So, yeah, I think the Packers are going to clean up and do their jobs. Uh, I guess I'll mention this game. We got the Jets and the Chiefs.
We can just move
It's
on
going to
from
be a
that.
it's
Chiefs
going to be
by
a murder.
100.
It's going to be a murder. Then we've got the Rams and the Dolphins.
No, wait. Before we move on, last
I think
week the Jets almost beat the Buffalo Bills.
yes, and but like we've said, Josh Allen has been having well, just really that Bills offense in total has been having some rough times since the Chiefs beat them. So
Seems like
you
everybody that
know,
ends up playing the Chiefs ends up having a struggling season after that. Minus, your
right,
handful of teams that, like, in the past years have gone to the playoffs and whatnot, but it always seems like that. Like Derek Carr was saying after he beat the Chiefs in this past couple weeks, he's like, I hate going in there and losing because it always makes me feel bad afterwards. I hate walking up that tunnel and just knowing that I
right.
lost. So,
And
yeah,
I mean, the NFL is one of those any given week kind of leagues. You know, anything can technically happen. I mean, let's not forget there was that year. I think it might have been the Aaron Rodgers MVP season where the Packers came into Arrowhead, I believe, undefeated. The Chiefs had just fired their head coach and had Romeo Crennel in
yeah,
as an interim at the time, and they hadn't won a game all season and beat the Packers.
that is
So I
fair.
mean, anything can happen. It's just we play the likelihoods here, and the Chiefs are going to absolutely murder the Jets.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
All right, so this Rams Dolphins game. Let's talk about this one for a second because I think this is going to be a good game.
You know, I like the Rams defense. They've got a pretty solid defense. I'm really upset that the Dolphins went ahead and put Tua in and just, benched old Ryan Fitzmagic down there, but I think this week I got to go with the Rams taking this game. I think they're going to win, but I don't think they'll win by much. They might win by a touchdown, if not three. So,
Sure, I just think this Dolphins team. I mean, the question marks at quarterback, right? If Tua can come out there and just not throw four interceptions, find a way to pass for like 150, 250 yards, and they can keep the ball on the ground with Gaskin, I think this could be a really good game and a possible upset. I don't think I'm ready to say that they're going to beat the Rams. I think if they still had Fitzpatrick in, I might be a little more brave because I would know what
Yeah,
we're getting at quarterback. So I think I got to give it to the Rams, but watch out for that Dolphins team. I think that's going to be an exciting game.
I think what you really got to watch out for and what that O line has to be ready for is old Aaron Donald coming over the other side. So Tua's
Right,
going to be
that's
put under some serious pressure this weekend, and we'll see if he can handle the pressure or not.
right. And here's the game that absolutely should be flexed to the night spot and get this horrendous NFC East matchup out of there. But probably the game of the week here, we've got the Steelers versus the Ravens.
Steelers still undefeated. I don't know.
Steelers 6-0, Ravens 5-1, only lost to the defending world champions. So
Other than
it's not like the
Lamar
Ravens are having a
Jackson,
bad season.
up there in Baltimore, I really as much as I like that kid, he's a great quarterback, but I think I'm gonna have to go with old Big Ben and take the Steelers winning this one. But I don't think they win by much. They might be a field goal.
The only thing I could typically say in a matchup like this with the Ravens is that they would have a coaching advantage with John Harbaugh being an amazing coach. However, Mike Tomlin on the other sideline, he's trailing his own Hall of Fame kind of path here, and
That he is.
so I don't think you can say that they've got a coaching advantage per se this week. You could go piece by piece and give advantage here, advantage there for each team. I think the Ravens are gonna. I think the Ravens are gonna dethrone the Steelers here. I think they're gonna find a way to finally beat the Steelers. I think they're going to be able to run on them. I think Lamar will be able to run. I think they're going to finally be able to work in some of their running backs here. He's just got to be careful throwing. You throw the ball in there, and if Fitzpatrick's within a fucking 50-yard radius, he's going to intercept it. So, you gotta play smart. But I think they can beat him this week. It's going to be close, like you said. But I'm going Ravens. All
What's
right,
this
let's move on.
awful matchup we got for the night game, that prime
We'll,
time
we'll,
spot?
we'll get there. We got three afternoon games first. So we've got the Chargers versus Broncos, AFC West matchup of 2, 2, and 4 teams.
Justin Herbert and the Chargers taking that
So this is where I think Justin Herbert's going to have his toughest matchup yet. I think that Bradley Chubb is going to sack him about 55 times this game.
win.
And I think the Broncos are going to find a way to win this game against all odds because I think the Chargers are the better team and the more exciting team.
I don't
But
think Drew Lock has it. I don't think he's got it in him. Especially going
I'm
up against, a pretty solid defense that the Chargers have. They're
they
not
do have
great,
Joey
but
Bosa on their end.
yeah,
Um,
I don't think, especially after seeing what I saw last week against the Chiefs. Chiefs haven't really been that dominant on defense this year, especially after coming off the Super Bowl win last
Chiefs
year
have
and what
been
they had.
surprisingly better than everybody says they are again, though.
But I honestly think after just watching that, I don't think Drew Lock has what it takes to beat that Chargers defense.
I think
So
this is Drew Lock's coming out week again. I think this is where he shows what John Elway has seen in him. I think we'll see a different Drew Lock this week, and if not, then the Chargers are going to take care of business. But I'm going Broncos here for a dog. Okay, Saints versus Bears. 4-2 Saints, 5-2 Bears.
that's that's tough because on one side of
Like
the
I said, it's
ball,
going to be that 17-20 kind of game.
yeah, on one side of the ball you got Nick Foles, who up there in Philly led them to that Super Bowl and has proven that he can get things done. But on the other side,
Hot and cold.
you have old Breeze, but Breeze has been looking rough this season, and I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I think I might take the Bears to win this game.
I
They've
think
got
the Bears
Khalil
do
Mack
win
on
this game.
defense to shut down that O line and get through, and if he can get through and get to old Drew Brees back there, I think that's how they're gonna win this game.
I think if the Bears can beat the Buccaneers, they can beat the Saints.
I 100% agree with that.
So I'm going Bears here as well. I think the Bears are going to take care of business, win 20-17. All right, and the last afternoon game, we got the 49ers and the Seahawks. Another good
Seahawks.
one. I'm also
Taking
going
Seahawks.
Seahawks. I
Got a
I,
beat up
I, I
team
wouldn't
in
be
the San Francisco
shocked.
49ers. So
I can't be shocked if the Niners win, but I would be a little surprised. I think that the Seahawks are just the better team and they should win that game.
absolutely.
All right, now before we get to this nightcap, let's just go to Monday because I think it'll be a quick one. So Monday night, you've got the Buccaneers versus the Giants. I think we're all pretty comfortably going
Yeah.
Bucks there.
Bucks
Not a
by
whole lot of
100,
redeeming
just like the
qualities
Chiefs
for the
get.
Giants. Right, so Sunday night, NFC Beast matchup of the week. We got the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Eagles. The fact that the Cowboys don't have a quarterback that anybody has ever heard about. The only person they have now is Zeke, and I don't think Zeke can carry him on their back to beat the Eagles. Who, granted, I'm not a big Carson Wentz fan, but they at least have a quarterback that has, proven himself that he can get some things done when he's not hurt or when he's not absolute trash. But I'm taking Eagles on this one.
My only problem with that is I feel like the team that beats the Eagles the most are the Eagles. Like they just make stupid choices and do stupid things
This is very
a
true.
lot. And I think this is a game that the Cowboys bounce back. I hate being on the side of the Cowboys, but it seems like they always win that first one against the Eagles. I I think I yeah. God, it's such a bad game just
It
in
is.
general,
Why
but
are these primetime
I
teams
think I'm
such
going
shit this
Cowboys
year?
here. I don't know, but they need to flex that other game, the Steelers game, Steelers Ravens to
I
prime time.
agree.
That's what needs to happen here. Either that or the 49ers Seahawks, one of those two games. Flex them to prime time, please. I'd even take the Bears and Saints punt fest over the.
I think it's gonna be a big punting game. I could see that Bears and Saints game coming down to being a field goal game. I think it could
That's
be one of those games.
it's gonna be 9-12.
Yeah, this is gonna be one of those games where it's nothing but field goals, like what we saw just a week ago. And who was that? They
That
only had field goals
that
for
was the
like
Broncos versus the Patriots.
yeah,
Broncos won with just field goals.
just sad.
It is sad.
All right, well that is it for today. We will be back on Thursday, hopefully around this time. We're gonna start doing this every Tuesday and Thursday. And I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope we get followers and more subscribers to this, and hopefully this will